Awesome. Hi everyone, how you going? Good, everyone's a bit zen. I heard we did some meditation earlier on, so I'm going to be the really annoying person that now makes you do stuff. So thank you firstly all for being here today and for making the time out. I know when you work for yourself, it's always a big commitment to take time out in your day. Especially, I'm sure a lot of you are very busy. So thank you, and I hope today I'll be able to give you a little bit of insight and value around, in particular, the customers that you serve and how hopefully you can get a little bit of a more aligned product market fit, if that's what you need, or some other form of value from this afternoon. So we've only got an hour and a half. If I'm talking too quickly, sometimes I get excited or my accent gets a bit strong, so just go, Claire. Rein yourself in, it's okay. Just tell me if I'm talking too quickly, or if there's something I talk to that's not making sense to you, please just call it out as well, because sometimes when you're presenting stuff, we assume people have different levels of knowledge. I'm conscious everybody's coming to the room today with different levels of knowledge, so please let me know and I'll be more than happy to share with you where I'm coming from, all right? So the first thing I wanted to talk about, so the reason I thought when I spoke with Wayne firstly around what would be of value today, the first thing I guess that I thought would be really valuable is when we're creating value for our customers, sometimes we can do really good stuff, but we might do once-off or very project-specific pieces of work, which are great, but it means then when you have another customer who looks for another piece of work, you've got to create a new project. And it's just not as scalable. Or you become too commoditized at the other end of the spectrum, and then it becomes much harder to create something that's sustainable, scalable, and actually is creating a regular profit line for you as well. Okay, so that's why I thought the beautiful canvas that you see in front of you today would be of value to you. So the two steps that we're gonna, it's a bit bright, sorry, but the two things we're gonna look at today is out of these 5 steps is the first two in particular. So identify and understand your ideal client, okay? Not just anybody who, I remember asking somebody before, who's your ideal client? And they're like, anyone who pays me money, okay? So that's fine, but it's not really your ideal client. And I think we've all been in those situations where you'll see the phone ring and you're like, oh God, okay, what does this client want? And you've got to deal with them, but they're not obviously your ideal client. So about identifying and understanding that. And secondly, what did they value in terms of the jobs to be done? So the jobs to be done is essentially the first part of this value proposition canvas that I'll take you through today. So the reason I've printed these out for you is that I'm hoping you'll get to unpack a little bit of it yourselves and actually start to use the tool as opposed to just be a theoretical application that you actually start to apply it, okay? As you can see then, basically the other 3 steps are around how do you then map back your value proposition to the customers? How are you networking and pitching for interest? And then how do you make it easy to progress the sale in this instance? So how you actually make it very easy for the customer to work with you as opposed to making it complex from the outside in, okay? So we're gonna look at the first 2 pillars today. Is everyone okay with that? Any questions? No? All good? Okay, cool. All right, so just very quickly, this is just a piece of research that basically looks at top reasons that businesses fail. And as you can see there, and I know we're going to have some fabulous presentation around hiring and happy people as well later on, but hiring poorly is one of those reasons. Lack of focus, so we're trying to do too much at once, in particular when we're small businesses. We tend to wear many hats at the same time. Failing to execute on our sales and marketing, and of course building something that nobody wants. And whether that's something nobody wants or somebody's not willing to pay the price that you're asking for it. So the value they attach to it is different to the value that you're attaching to it. So what you're trying to do is go, okay, well if that's the case, and you can see it's a pretty big stat, it's 40%. If that's the case, well, how do we make sure whatever we build or whatever we offer is of value and they're willing to pay for it? Okay, so just in terms of why the value proposition canvas. So is everybody familiar with the business model canvas? Strategizer, is anyone here familiar with that? You guys would be familiar with it, I'm sure. Anyone else? Chris, you're familiar with it? Sharon, maybe? Sharon doesn't want to be the star student today. She's like, don't look at me, Claire. Okay, so this business model canvas is essentially a tool that has been generated by a company called Strategizer. And what they do, this is a canvas that pulls together 9 core building blocks of a business. So essentially how you create value, how you capture it, and how you deliver it to your customer. The value proposition canvas is a subset of that. It's probably one of the most important blocks. And what it is essentially we need to understand who our customer is and what is the core value that we're bringing to our customer that we then can charge for, or we use to retain our customers, or whatever the scenario is. So in this instance, why VPC is the value proposition canvas. So this, as I say, is a subset. So this is one of the core pieces of your business model. So on this side, you've got, okay, who are our customers and what are they trying to achieve? And we're going to get into a deep dive more there. What is the gain of me achieving that job, or what is the pain I incur as a result of not achieving that job? And then over here are all the products and or services that you offer to help them achieve this job, okay? And of course, as a result, you're either creating a gain or you're relieving a pain for this particular customer. The great thing about this is because you unlock it through looking through the lens of the customer, you will start to see things that maybe you hadn't seen before in terms of the value you're bringing to your customer base. And also you'll start to use their language. Sometimes, hands up anyone who tends to sometimes talk in terms of our language, we're not necessarily always talking in our customer's language. And that's what's really powerful about this, is that you actually start to unpack it in their words. So what's great about this is that it helps you to find a product market fit. So you've got a market of customers that are ideal for you, and you've got your market, the product fit that you're offering. What it also means as well, of course, is that you can prioritize, because as some of you would imagine have a portfolio of services that you offer, or a portfolio of products. Not everything is going to be as valuable, so it helps you to focus, okay, well, these are the top 3 things that our customers are finding most valuable. Let's focus on that. And then from there, we can assign resource to the other things as well, but just not as much. So you're not putting, often what I see when I work with clients is that we tend to put everything in one bucket and treat all our clients the same, or treat all our products the same. And because we do that, we tend to lose focus on what's really important and producing the most for us. As I mentioned, it's the language. We're using the client's language or the customer's language, and we're honing in on the right value. And what's really important here is the value from the customer point of view, but also value from you as a business owner point of view, or somebody working in the business point of view. Because if you're not making money doing this, or if you're not for profit, if you're not achieving your objectives, then it doesn't matter how great your customer thinks you are. It's, you're on a highway to nothing, okay? Or you're a very, very, very busy person, and you need to do a lot more meditation, perhaps, but the value needs to be there both for you as a business and for the customer, and of course then for a wider stakeholder group as well, if that's relevant to your environment. Is there any questions on that? Does that make sense? Has anybody done something like this, and looked at how they assess their customers before? What have people used? You're smiling. Is that a good smile, or please don't ask me smile? Have you unpacked customers before, and how you?
Different ways.
Okay.
So sort of using different methods to see what works.
Okay. And how did you find those methods?
People want to talk to people. I think more direct.
Yeah.
I think we're too digital. That's just my opinion. So getting back to some basics has been a good work.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Any thoughts to offer? No? We good? Any questions? Does that make sense? So just basically giving you the context as to why we're doing what we're doing, okay? So what we're going to focus on is this part of the canvas. So we need to understand what's the value our customer is looking for from us as an organization. Hands up here who's business to business. Right, business. Okay, the rest of you guys then are business to consumer. Is that fair to say? Yeah, okay. Awesome. Any not-for-profits here? No? Oh, one dead. Be proud of it. No, that's good to know as well. So this is, very much used in the not-for-profit sector as well. All right, so what I want to do is I'm basically going to take you through the definition of jobs to be done, and what that means and what the context is of that. And then what we're going to do is look at an example of that. And what I'll get you to do then in a while is to actually start looking at this from your perspective as a business, okay? Am I moving around a bit actually? Sometimes I walk a lot, I'm conscious people are spread out. So I'll try and stand still, Jack. In terms of the jobs to be done, we've got 4 primary jobs to be done. And essentially what we're doing is we're looking at the task that the customer is trying to perform and complete, the problems he or she is trying to solve, and the need she or he is trying to satisfy. So if you think about it, typically we look at it just through a functional job. What is the task our customer is trying to do? So if I was to ask one of you, so if I was to ask you, what would be a job your customer is trying to do from a functional perspective? You, chat, yes. That's what you get for sitting in the front row. Buy a gift? Yeah, okay, cool. So you basically they're coming in, they're trying to buy a gift. Excellent. So that's fine. So you look at it through that lens and then you go, okay, so a social job, how a client wants to be perceived. All right, so I'm going to use you as an example as well again. But if a client wants to be perceived, so how do I want to be perceived as perhaps a consumer of a gift? Is there something that you could think of there in terms of the clients that come into that purchase from you guys?
I guess they want to be seen to be giving a good quality gift that's using local produce is what they're trying to show.
Okay, yeah, excellent. There's an emotional job to be done. So how does a client want to feel? So if a client was coming, buying a gift, and they're like, it's local, it's high quality, how do I want to feel when I'm purchasing this gift? Yeah, okay.
Adding value.
Yeah. And the thing is, you've got to be careful. Are they thinking, I'm feeling like I want to add value, or is that your perception of what you would like them to feel?
Probably that they're getting value, or that they're feeling like they're contributing to their local community by purchasing the gift. Yep.
Great. And then the supporting job. So in the context of purchasing and consuming the value. So an example of a supporting job could be when I'm going to an airport and I'm booking a trip, for example. A supporting job is I need to book the hotel because I'm going to stay somewhere. I need to book my car parking, for example. It's not I'm going on a trip, it's I need to book my parking so I can go on my trip, for example. So in your instance, would there be a supporting job that you could think of that a customer will be doing? So if they're coming in, they're buying a high quality gift, they're feeling like they're contributing to the local economy, so they're feeling good about that. Is there something else? They're off the hook for Mother's Day or something along those lines?
Yeah, that's right.
Something like that, okay? So the reason I'm just wanting to unpack it a little bit there was, often we get stuck on the functional job and we don't think about it through the lens of the customer's point of view, okay? So what are people's thoughts on that before I move to the next slide? Anything? There is another one as well. There's a 5th one where we're starting to see more now that people are also wanting to be, you can use the 3 Ps or ESG, or there's a number of different terms, but essentially they want to be more responsible to the environment. So I'll pay that little bit extra to contribute towards carbon credits or whatever the scenario is. But there's a sense of I also want to be contributing back to the world in which my children live in, for example. So things like that too. So there's definitely that perspective as well. If I was to ask for a business to business, you guys in BlackRock, if I was to ask you guys to have a look at that, what would you say from a business to business, or does somebody else want to jump in from a business to business perspective? If I was to ask you guys what could that look like? What would you say from a functional perspective?
I'd say we'd be providing for argument's sake, supplementary staff
Okay.
for their workforce.
Okay. So that's what when they call you guys up or when they make contact, it's like I need supplementary staff, essentially. Yeah. How do they want to be perceived?
Well, because of our background, they want to be perceived as supporting local and supporting Indigenous.
Yep. Great. Yep. And then an emotional job. How do they want to feel?
Much the same, really.
Yeah.
It's that they're doing their part to support,
Yeah. Yep.
support local, support
Yep.
Indigenous, and that they're being a good corporate citizen. So,
Yes. Yes. So I guess, you know, it's kind of pride is the word that comes to mind as well. Would that be a bit too touchy-feely, or would that be?
Public image.
Yes, well, public image is always important, yes. Yes, you know, and the public image and contributing as well to that local and Indigenous piece too. And then from a supporting job, is there anything?
There's a myriad of different other tasks that have to be taken into account. There's supplies that supply down to the clothes that we wear to work, the equipment that we use in that supporting role. It leads to multiple other jobs that come as a consequence of those people going onto that side.
Okay, okay. So the client is thinking, so from a supporting job perspective, is that they're going, we know the guys at BlackRock have all of that taught through for us. So all we need to make sure is that when they get decided it's a safe place for them to work, but you guys look after all the other things. And is that something that's done typically in the industry, that your organization would look after that side of things?
There are some companies that do that sort of thing, yeah.
Okay.
Other places tend to be a little bit more specialised, but we tend to focus on being able to provide as much of a one-stop shop service as we can.
As you can.
As
Okay.
going forward.
Yep. All right. Awesome. Thank you. Is there any observations on that? Does that make sense to everybody? How that's been applied? Yeah? Okay. So this is actually, this is actually an example of a business trip perspective. So that's just thinking of it through the lens of, we might just quickly do it, the exercise, and I'm going to pick up this side of the room now. But essentially, an example is, so I am going to, I can never pronounce it right, I shouldn't have picked this one, Cairns. I'm going on a business trip for 3 days, okay? I'm really excited to go on a business trip. If I was to ask you to think, what are the jobs to be done from my perspective? So I'm going on a business trip, I'm going for 3 days, I'm going next month. What would you think are the jobs to be done from a functional perspective? Pack, yep. Book flights, yep. Book a car, yes, definitely book a car. Sorry? I'm only going to, yeah, no, but if you're doing that, yeah, make sure you have all your paperwork in place. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so there's that functional piece of booking. What about from a meetings perspective? So I'm going on a business trip, so when I land at the airport, I'm going to need to know, I guess, what meetings I'm going to, things like that as well. So making sure you confirmed all your meetings, making sure you've got, you know, yourself prepared for whatever the types of meetings are. From a social perspective, you know, and you even put yourself in these shoes, how would you like to be perceived going on a business trip? Professional, yes, yeah. So that's going to affect how clothes you wear. It's going to affect how you, you know, how you do your hair. You know, you make that extra effort because you want to be seen in a certain way, but also you want to appear professional. So, you know, if you were to unpack that a bit more, I guess, you know, it's about making sure you're prepared. You've got backups of slides. You've got backup whatever the documentation you're working with and things like that. Would that be fair to say? Yeah. From an emotional perspective, anybody wants to, how would you want to feel?
Make sure you're prepared so you're not anxious about anything.
Yeah, definitely. And for anybody who's parents in the room, anything that, from your perspective? See you later, kids. Yes, I know. I was down in Sydney 2 weeks ago, and my husband's like, "Oh, you must be so bored," and I'm like, "Yeah, you know, I'm watching TV in the hotel room." Just, yeah, no, I wasn't bored at all. I was really happy. But, you know, from that perspective as well, sometimes what comes up is I want to be connected back to my family. So I FaceTime or whatever the scenario. So you're arranging a phone call with your kids, or you're just checking in, sending photos, whatever, things like that as well. So there's an emotional connection back there as well. Any supporting jobs that you can think of? Make sure there's wine in the fridge, definitely. Okay. Uber Eats, yes. Uber Eats is great. Yes, so those types of things. So, where am I going next? Okay. So here's just an example, business to attend to, reserving your accommodation, sleep and feel fresh, eat, look good with your clients, feeling safe, connected with home. If I'm staying somewhere, where am I booked to? How far is it from the airport? So all of a sudden, you're not just going on a business trip, right? There's all these other jobs to be done. So for somebody who's potentially servicing that client, you're suddenly putting yourself into the feet of this client saying, or into the shoes, of the client saying, oh, these are actually all the things this client is trying to do. These are other things that I can do as part of my business to either offer more value to them, so they feel, like you guys were saying, we take care of all that stuff that they just don't have to worry about, and they're not worried about regulations, and they're not worried, that sort of stuff that you mightn't have thought about if you just looked through the lens of, we're providing staff for you when you need it, side of things. Okay. Speaking of kids. All right, so what we're going to, thank you guys. What we're going to do, so just before I step into that, is there any questions? Is that still making sense? Sometimes people just like sitting and thinking and we'll play around with it in a little bit so you can actually start to apply it and see how it works in your business. But is it making sense? Yeah? Okay. So the first thing though is sometimes when people see this canvas, they're like, oh cool, I'm going to just start mapping it out now. And what sometimes they haven't done as in depth as perhaps they could or should is to look at the customer profile. So this is where, and I've just printed out one. There are so many different avatar styles, guys, out there, and it's about finding one that works for you. But I find this is kind of a good one that goes across the B to B side of things. But what you're trying to do is understand who you're solving the problems for. Okay, so if I was to, the thing is as well, you're going to have multiple types of clients in most cases, or customers in most cases. So it's about understanding, you might have 3 different types of customers, mapping those out, and then creating the value proposition canvas for each of those. You don't put them all in the one map, if that makes sense, because you'll start to see then, oh, hang on, this is a very distinctive group. So if I was to ask, does somebody want to volunteer? Anybody want to volunteer? Anyone want to volunteer? I'm just going to pick somebody then. So if I was to ask somebody to share perhaps an ideal client, is there anyone that wants to give me an ideal client? Hi. This side of the room. So if I was to say to you an ideal, so sorry, what's your name and what's your business?
Kimberly, I'm a beauty therapist in my own home-based business.
Great. Hi, Kimberly. So if I was to ask you to look at this through the lens of an ideal client for you, or I'm sure you've thought about your types of clients, how would you populate that? So if we were to look at that, so your age, location, I'm not sure if education isn't necessarily relevant here, but age, is there an age bracket?
No, I have a vast age of clients. It's crazy, but sometimes for different times of the year you will. So
Okay.
weddings, race season, you have
Yeah.
different clients
Yeah,
at different
yeah.
ages, but generally anywhere between maybe 25 and 50.
Okay, that's a good age range, yes.
Yeah.
All right, and then the goals of those people. So females,
Yeah, mainly.
yep. See, and you can do one for males as well,
Yes,
and you
yeah.
might want to, break it by season as opposed to by their age demographic. You might say,
Yeah,
okay,
that
season,
definitely would be
and you could switch it a little bit differently and say, okay, well, by season, this is what's happening. So if I was to say 25 to 50, let's say the season is race season, what's the goals from a client perspective?
To have enough product, obviously, for me.
Nope,
or
for
the
your clients. You're building out a profile. So the idea is that you have a name given to,
Yeah.
so what would you call her?
My client,
Yes,
Jenny.
Jenny. Okay.
Microwave Jenny.
So Jenny is between 25 and 50. She is, in race season. She's coming to you. What are her goals?
To look and feel good when she leaves.
Okay. All right.
To book her appointment first and foremost.
Yeah. But her ultimate goal is to look and feel good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what would her values? Are her values, is that important to you in terms of the values of the people you work with?
That I make her feel important and
Yeah. Okay. And when she's coming to you, does she know exactly what she wants, or is she like, I want to look and feel good, go nuts, kind of thing?
Oh, there's two different ends of the spectrum. Some
Yep.
people want to look like Beyonce when they leave, and other people are happy for you to choose their colour. So,
Yeah. And that's the thing, Shu, what this can do is help you actually start to divide that out, because maybe for the clients who don't know what they want, you might have a slightly different approach to how you work with them.
Do you suggest one of these for every single client?
Your main groups,
Yep.
because otherwise you'll just have a myriad of, top 3 to 5 types max, ideally 3, but yes, I would suggest, because you'll suddenly, you might have a package, for example, that you could create for somebody who, they might do this sort of stuff maybe once a year or twice a year. They just do it for race day or something like that. It's a big thing to go out with their friends or whatever. So you might create a package based around that type of client, which is very different to, I'd imagine somebody is like, okay, I don't know, because I'm kind of more that other person, to be fair. But like if I'm very like, I want this, and this, you just do that and that's it. But it's a very different approach then to how you work with them or how they find you. So to have a think about it through that lens. The other thing here as well is to look at their values, and the other thing as well could be, for example, people come back and say, I only like working with people who value what I do, for example. So they're not coming in and treating you like a commodity, or they're not coming in and trying to get you down in price, or they're not coming in and trying because you go over and above for the client all the time. So for you, you're not willing to cut your price because you're going, well, I'm offered this really great service, so I'm happy, I'm comfortable with this. So in some cases it means you turn away clients, but once you're happy to, once you know why you're doing it, sometimes you get this feeling in your gut and it's like, I don't know, should this be recorded or not, but it's like, God, this person's a bit of an arsehole. I don't really know if I want to work with them. I think everybody kind of has that moment every so often. And then you have other clients who are like, oh my God, I love working with these people. They bring out the best in me. We get so much done together. And I love, how they take photos, maybe on Instagram. You're like, oh, I'm so proud of how I made her feel and so on. You're really, really proud of them. And your relationship, those are the clients you want to start drawing yourself to more of. I'm sure there's corporations and companies you guys work with that you just love working with them. They're just, they give you that smile. And then there's clients you're going, okay, maybe they're a bit of box tickers, and that's okay. But you treat them slightly differently because you want more of the ones that really work with you guys. So that's what's really important about this exercise, guys, is it's about to really start to think. Because usually what happens is you go, oh yeah, my clients are kind of in this bucket. Anybody who's looking for a beauty treatment, but it's actually not when you start unpacking it a bit more. The other important thing to look at, particularly in the business to consumer space, is the source of your current solution. So do they go onto Facebook and search for beauticians? Do they go, and look for staff? How do they find, do they go to, I don't know, the Yellow Pages? I'm not really sure. Where would people go in your instance to find referrals? Okay.
Referrals and online, we get a lot of online.
Yeah, great. So then it's about making sure the online experience is optimum for them to come through to you. What about you guys? Online. A lot of your stuff's online. Yeah. Okay. So is everyone kind of comfortable? They know where their customers are looking for them, or that type of service, not necessarily looking for you, but looking for your type of service. So it's about then going, okay, am I making it really easy for them to find me and engage with me, not just find me? Sometimes when you find stuff online and it's like, please click here and it's a dead link, or the email address isn't working or whatever, and those are the things that are tripping you up before you even know it, kind of thing. So it's just making sure that sort of stuff is done. I've also put in things here as well, like, if you're in role in business, so what's the person's role in business? So it could be they're a HR person, or they are head of finance, or whatever the scenario is. And their role in life is, if they're in 25 to 50, say, most like, they're a mom maybe, or they're, are they a mom, or are they, is that a big part of their life, or are they, somebody very driven in particular area in sport or something like that. And a quote. So what would a quote look like? So for example, if there's a Jenny, what would Jenny say about working with you? Ideally.
About being a client?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, ideally, hopefully that they like the way that they feel when they leave, and that they're really impressed with the service that I provide them.
Okay. Yep. So that sort of stuff, you know, so you take a quote and you put it in her language. So like what you've said, she may or may not say that. I don't know if that's the case or not, but you would actually take her language and translate that into a quote that she would say, because that's what you then align your work to. So it's like, okay, well, would this client say, like the service I'm offering, would this client say something like this about it, you know? So for you guys in education, it's pretty, like you have such a varied audience, right, of people that you serve. Potato is like, yes. But you know, for you, an ideal client would be.
Those who want to, well, students overall, basically, but there's different types of students itself as
Yeah.
well. So.
Yeah. And that's where something like this is really great, because it helps you to understand them better, because you can get a little bit overwhelmed. I know I certainly can sometimes if I just was to think of everybody. You just get overwhelmed and then you're not really serving anyone in particular in a very direct way. So then over here you've got your challenges and pain points. So this is somewhat related to the jobs to be done. But you know, what are the key challenges? So a challenge could be, I need to look awesome next Friday for the races, and I'm working between now and Thursday, so my challenge is I've got this much of a window. I'm just using an example. Or my challenge is, I've only got this budget. How do I work with that budget to get what I'm looking for example? So if I was to ask you, sorry, what's your name?
Katie.
Katie? So what's your business?
I work with bike surveyors, so we're surveying across a variety of industries.
Okay, righto. So you've got quite a broad base to work from as well. So if I was to ask you a type of client, like a challenge for those people when they're coming to you or what they're trying to do, what is a challenge to them achieving their job?
I guess some of the challenges would be farmers who have quite big properties, you know, toward Tamworth or Crindai, somewhere like that, and they have a lot of different lots that they need consolidated together, and they don't quite understand why our business is so expensive. Then they see just a couple of pegs chucked in the ground here and there, and then a bill for 45 grand, and go, what?
And that's a nice way, I'm sure, of saying it, yes. So then if I was to ask you then, Katie, do you guys communicate clearly why, to your point, like the challenge is we've got all this, you know, dispersed properties that we need you to support us on. Do you, at this moment in time, would you say that it's very clear to the farmer why the bill is what it is, like the value that you guys are giving? Or is that
Usually we try to, if it's somebody who's not really familiar with what exactly they need to be done,
Yep.
so they say with the drought and they needed to sell off a lot of their land because it was just too expensive for them to maintain anymore without any money coming in. So they would need a really good breakdown of why our business is so expensive and what it is that we do
Yep.
to help them, you know, see the price in their mind and why they need to do that to get to their final solution of selling it to get money.
Yeah.
Where they have to outlay the large amount first
Yeah.
to get to that point.
Yeah.
So we usually try and break it down and to smaller portions, and they can choose then you can just have this bit or whatever. But mining companies, for example, just go, we don't care, we'll just pay it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
get it done. We need
Yeah.
to know how much coal is in that stockpile, put it on the ship, get it overseas and sell it, whatever.
Yeah.
The bill is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
The cost of
Yeah.
the coal. Yeah.
And you don't have to answer this question, but you know, if I was to ask you between, say, the farmers and the mines, who do you guys enjoy working with more?
Definitely the farmers.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that, you know, if you take it beyond just the functional job and like, oh, what you're dealing with these people, yeah, you know, so it's like, do we want to have more farmers, but we position ourselves somewhat differently? So it sounds like, you know, in a way as well, you guys are helping farmers to get to an outcome too, which is kind of cool, yeah. Okay, does that make sense why I'm asking those questions? Cool. So for instance then, the challenges, the pain points, what are they going through at this moment in time that's causing them to want to work with you? Also then a really important one as well is the assumed change blockers. So often when I do this stuff in detail, people are like, oh yeah, they think it's too expensive, for example. And you go into that assumption model of thinking that. But when you start to unpack it, you suddenly realize it's because it's not actually the price, it's just understanding why they're paying the price. So then it's about, okay, the actual blocker is we don't understand why we're paying that money, you know, and we've all been there, right? Somebody, you're like, oh my God, I'm not paying that. And then somebody says, actually, no, this is what you're paying for. Oh, okay, and this is the outcome I'm getting. So sometimes we're all guilty, I think, of, you know, getting so caught up in the process of delivering the service or product. The client doesn't care less, they just want the outcome, you know, and it's about, you know, and this is a really great way of understanding what you're assuming is stopping the sale. And also then going, okay, well, if that is stopping the sale, how do we address that? And address it up front rather than getting halfway through, perhaps depending, especially in business to business, you might be halfway through a quoting process or a tender or something like that, and they pull out. And, you know, you could have either stopped you having to do that work altogether up front, or you could have addressed some things that made you change how you approach the tender to win the tender further on in the actual process. Okay? So I'm just going to ask you guys, any questions? Sorry, any questions? You guys okay? No? No? Any questions? No? 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 All right. Can I ask you guys to take 5 minutes? I'm going to keep it pretty short because I want to get into the proposition canvas. We're finishing at 3, Wayne, right? Yeah. Can I ask you guys to take 5 minutes to think of one client? Just one? Ideally, think of a client that when you see their name pop up in your phone, you really enjoy dealing with them, or you see them walking into the shop or whatever it is. Just somebody that actually brings you joy working with them, and actually unpack. Give them a name, whether it's Jenny or whoever it is, and actually just write down, and I've given you all post-it notes, so if you prefer to use the post-it notes and take this home with you so you can actually do what you want to do, that you're more than welcome to. And I can give you an online version of this as well if you want. But just I want you to take 5 minutes to go, okay, well, you know, if it's Jenny or if it's Mary or whoever, what's going on for them? What are the goals when they're working with me? So in the farmer's instance, what's going on? What's their values as well? So family will be a big thing, I'd imagine. You know, doing the right thing, you know, being part of the local community. The source of information, so where are they going to get the solution? Not necessarily you directly, but just the solution. And then, of course, their challenges, pain points, and your assumed blockers at the moment. Okay? And that's just something to unpack. It's about just questioning all those assumptions. Is everyone okay with unpacking that for a few minutes? Yeah? People are going, oh, this is who I thought my client was, but then I've actually realized I need to find out a bit more about them, or that actually isn't my ideal client, or anything? No? Yeah?
It's also communicating to the rest of our team that these are the target customers and why we're targeting.
Yes. Yeah, really good point. Yep. And that's the thing too, sometimes we get so caught up in our own heads of what we're doing, and we know where we're going and we know where we want the business to be, but we might forget to bring everybody with us on the journey too, including the clients, you know. So yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you. Okay, so before I go into the next slide, so if I was to ask if somebody wouldn't mind sharing with me, what are some key goals that you have around your customers, whether it's growing your customers or when I ask you about your customers, what are some key goals you guys have set? Customer satisfaction. Okay, so you want to increase that, maintain that?
Well, you can always increase it, but once you've got it, you want to maintain it.
Okay, all right. So are you kind of saying, right, we want to increase it? Have you any metrics kind of in mind as around what you want to do?
No.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So but customer satisfaction is really important to you in terms of, and what do you guys do if you don't mind me asking?
We work in council.
Ah, okay, oh, okay, yes. Well. I'm not. I'm just gonna. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. But no, that's really good. And it is interesting. Yes. So I can talk to you separately, but there's some certain metrics. It's about understanding, I guess, what's the baseline you want to work from, and then, okay, if we want.
We have control over
Yeah.
our roles. So that's
Ah, okay. All right. Okay. And you're both in community service. Ah, okay. Awesome. All right. Cool. Yes. So there's that side. Anything else anybody wants to share around customers? Any goals that you've got? Yep.
Quality work in a timely manner.
Quality work in a timely manner.
It's safe while you're doing it, so making all those
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Cool.
Added value to exceed expectation.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Yes. Okay. So added value. So, when you say added value, is this added value that you're giving as part of the offering, or is this added value as an optional?
No, always give more than what they expect.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Over here, any goals anyone wants to share?
Claire, I'll give you one from a different angle.
Yes.
We're a business that mainly works, our clients are business, we're business to business. One of our main roles is to try and eliminate or reduce the client's worries and concerns.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Around what?
Security,
Okay.
site integrity,
Mhm.
theft.
Mhm.
I can keep going.
Yep. No, that's good. No, that's fine. Thank you. Yep. So it's to reduce that. Yes.
Sorry, what was the next bit?
So you were saying you wanted to just add from a business to business
Yeah, I
point.
just sort of add that in there because I mean every business is different, and we can't compare. And I'm saying this nicely against someone who's in the beauty industry who deals with retail clients who are all female and already beautiful.
You redeemed yourself.
But yeah, so the point is, you have a group of people in this room who come from a vast range of different businesses, and I just wanted to throw it out there that you know, every business is unique, or
Yes.
potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, absolutely. You know, you're right, and that's where the likes of the value proposition canvas is great because ultimately it's about the user of the canvas and how you utilize the tool. This is simply a tool. It's about how you use it then to get the outcomes depending on your industry. So there's a couple of very different goals there, but really good goals. If I was to say to you then, what's the biggest challenge for you today in terms of delivering that for your customer?
Your team
Perception.
having the same vision.
Your team, oh, okay, right, okay. And so your team having the same vision, so they're not just,
Obtaining the resources to deliver what you want them to deliver.
yeah,
Because you can put it on, if you can put it in a truck to send something somewhere, it's out of your control once it leaves.
Yeah.
So you get a bad experience at the other end that you then have to clean up just because the truck driver didn't care.
yeah, okay. And yeah, is there a way to address that? But yeah, there's a couple of different threads to that one. Okay, no, that's good. Yeah, so there's elements in your control and elements outside of your control, but how, I guess it's about the communication with the end customer for you, and so that they know where you can help and how you feel about it, I guess, as well. Perception for you guys? So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Security is put in the same basket as insurance, perhaps. It's something that everybody would prefer not to have.
Yeah.
It's a necessary evil, however you want to say it.
Yep.
And it's considered an expense, not something that allows you to arrive to work tomorrow morning and start on work on time.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Hopefully we'll be able to address some of that in a minute. So this is an example of what a complete customer profile looks like. So to your point, sorry, what was your name? I didn't catch it. Yeah. Simon. So to your point, Simon, and also to your point, one of the things is that, you know, if you're to hone in just on, okay, we offer security, or what's your business again? Sorry. Oliver. Oh, okay. I've bought some of your products. But you know, if you were to look at it through, I guess, the functional job only, it becomes that commodity of I'm security, I'm goods, you know, things like that, and that's okay. But when you're offering more and you want to, I guess, maintain and increase your customer base as well, you start to unpack it through, you know, how do they want to feel, how do they want to look, what do we need to communicate to them that's important to them in terms of why they choose your business over and above something else, or why they choose security at all, for example. So how are you making it safer for them to do that too? So here's an example of just a complete customer profile. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. So this is actually a fleet management company, they were a tire management company. So what this company did originally was, their job was to replace tires for trucks all over Australia. And what was happening is they were getting hammered from on a price competition basis. So, you know, somebody else is saying, oh, you know, you're telling me you're charging me this much to replace the tires in my truck. I'm getting them much cheaper here. You know, thanks very much, da, da, da. So what happened was then they actually started talking to the fleet manager. So they did a customer profile, and they started talking to the fleet managers of these trucking companies. And of course, this is going to be a big one actually at the moment. And what essentially they started to understand was that the fleet manager just didn't want the headache of actually what was happening is they were, every time a truck would need a new tire or a new set of tires, it was a pain in the backside to arrange that for each individual truck. They wanted somebody to do the one-stop shop thing and actually manage the entire fleet for them. So for them, they had a budget. It's like, okay, well, if you just pay this amount per annum for this number of trucks on the road, and we will maintain those trucks, and you get your tires changed within X amount of time, or whatever the scenario is. You know your budget, you know your supplies. You can optimize fuel consumption as well, because you're actually scheduling in trucks and things like that. So everything's being managed in a much more effective and cost-efficient way. Also from a safety perspective, you are much more peace of mind that, hey, you know, all the drivers on my road or on the roads are, you know, sitting on a set of tires that are safe essentially, and they meet the requirements. So what they ended up doing was they changed their business model from a piece by piece thing to actually, we're going to just manage your fleet. Hilti as well did that, the tool management, the power tool company. So they went from trying to compete with the likes of Makita on power tools. You know, everybody's probably got a Makita somewhere, I'm sure, shoved in a shed. You know, and looking at, oh, do we go and sell through Bunnings or, you know, Home Timber Hardware, or whatever the scenario is, to actually going, okay, why don't we go to the commercial side? So they now sell to the large construction companies who just have a fleet of staff. Is a fleet, I suppose. So basically, just they equip all the staff with Hilti tools. If a tool breaks down, they replace it, and it's replaced within a certain period of time, depending on whether you're metro or you're regional. But there's a guarantee, and you just pay a flat fee, and this is what you're paying for. And then if you want to vary that, okay, there's a contract variation, but it's all transparent. You've taken away the headaches, because what they did was this, and understood that they wanted more than just power tools. They wanted the headache taken away. Okay, so I'm just trying to give you an example of how this is really powerful to look beyond just being a commodity service or product offering. Okay? Any thoughts on that?
That Hilti model actually worked really well, because I used them on a construction site. I was
All right.
for a while.
Okay.
To be able to just make a call and have the rep turn up, he'd drive up from Sydney, and he'd be there an hour or two later, you know, a couple of hours later, and he'd sort it out for us, and it was just one less headache.
Yep.
Anything we need, and he'd go through, check everything else while he was there, and it was a really, really good service. So the model in that respect, if that's how they ascertain what was required in the marketplace, what the customers wanted, then it worked very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And I think the other thing they identified when they did this was, and this is no reflection on the business you've been in by any means, but theft of tools as well. They had huge issues with tools just disappearing everywhere, and you know, so now it's a fleet. You know, it's much more like you as the company didn't have to worry about trying to buy more tools. It wasn't on your budget line; it was on theirs. So that was great as well. Now, bear in mind, they did have to change their model at the back end, in the sense that they now had to have warehousing for all of these types of tools, so they can then disperse it as needs be to their clients. But it didn't mean they didn't have to go down, you know, the race to parity of pricing. They didn't have to go, right, how do we compete with Makita? Because it's good enough, Makita is good enough, and that's where Makita were coming from. Makita's good, don't get me wrong, but Hilti is a very, you know, it's quite a good power tool. So that's why this type of model is really powerful. So with that in mind, what I'd love you guys to start looking at then is the value proposition canvas itself. So how you populate this is, bless you, is basically, you know, the client that you started, or the customer you started to think about earlier on. So obviously I'm just giving you a flavor of how you would approach this. It's about then you taking this and, you know, if customer satisfaction is really important for you guys, who is a typical person that comes to you guys or you work with? Is there anybody in particular actually that you guys often, that you see as an ideal client or somebody that you work with? You guys don't get to select who you work with, I guess. Everyone.
Select them, and it's going to sound sort of really sort of hokey, and it's certainly not meant to be, but all of our clients are important
Yep.
to us. I know it may not feel like it, but they are actually very important to us.
Yep.
And depending on the individual sections that we work in, I guess we're unique in that we're community services. So
Yep.
we're very much the people focused, the disadvantaged, but also bringing people into Muswellbrook and getting them to spend their money in town to support these small businesses,
Yeah.
because that's what Stephen and I do.
Okay.
We're about encouraging people to spend local, shop local,
Yep.
all that sort of
Okay.
stuff. So we're
Ah.
newly formed
Okay.
area.
Right, yes, I was going to say, okay, that's really, yeah, that's great. That's really good. So, you know, so basically what we're focusing on today, guys, is this part. So what we're trying to do here is unpack the customer more so that they're not just, I need security, I'm going to ring Simon. And then I'm going to ring somebody else down the road, and then I'm going to compare their prices. And I'm not sure if this is what's happening, but, you know, or I'm going to ask you for this, and, you know, I don't understand the full value of what you're doing for me, so I'm not sure if I want to pay that much, you know, or whatever the scenario is. So what you're trying to do is unpack everything they're trying to do, and then what's the gain of achieving that. So if you look at this one, for example, ensuring compliance. Let's just say ensuring compliance is like a job to be done, so they need to be compliant. You know, if they're not compliant, there may be compliance fines in this instance, which I'd imagine would be pretty hefty in that industry. However, if they are compliant, then you start going up here. The gain of them being compliant is 100% safety, for example. Could be profitability also goes up. So you go, oh, okay, well, if I don't want to get a fine, I want to be profitable and I want to be 100% safe, you know, which also then has a ripple effect through to being an employer of choice or a safety employer and things like that. So there's all that ripple effect. But the purpose of this is to go, what are they trying to do from a functional, social, emotional, and supportive job point of view? And then going, what's the pain of not achieving that, or achieving it in some instances, or the gain of achieving that? All right? So if I could ask you all to think of the client, or, you know, somebody that you would like to, so with the farmers, for example, what are the jobs they're trying to do? It's not just, we want this mapped out and you to give us this. There's other things going on for them too. If you can map that out, start to map it out using the Post-it notes. There's probably going to be a lot of colors on your desk, but if you could just start to do that and start to think, okay, well, what are they really trying to do? And I'll put the description of the jobs back up for you now. And the purpose of this is that you, oh, here's some additional questions as well. So what is the one thing your customer couldn't live without accomplishing? What are the stepping stones that could help you customer achieve this job? Is there different contexts that your customers might be in? You know, so context in your instance, Kate, might be the context is they're, you know, in some instances people might have been coming through the back end of drought or flooding. They're in that mindset. Or are they coming off the back of, you know, so if you're in the cattle space at the moment, you're doing pretty all right. So their mindset is slightly different. And it's not just financial, it's just the environment they're operating in. Or, you know, the price of fuel at the moment. All of these things have an impact on how your customer is interacting with you. So for customers, you know, so, you know, and from your perspective, if you're shipping things, you're probably looking at a cost to ship now that's gone, ooh, you know, and if that's the case, how do we manage that? You know, do we bear the cost ourselves, or do we try and get our client to maybe absorb a little bit and explain to them, you know, depending on the relationship you have with them, or there's certain types of clients that you think, yes, we can ask them, but there's other types of clients you're gonna, oh, you know what, it's not actually, it doesn't sit well with our values. You're smiling, all good? Sometimes customers, they have jobs that they mightn't even be aware of. I'm sure like somebody here would be able to share a story where a client comes in to get help with something and you're going, oh, did you know X, Y, and Z? And they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that existed, for example, or whatever the scenario is. With you guys, I imagine with your stock, clients might come in, or customers might come in looking for a certain service or a certain type of product, and did you also know we actually have this sort of stuff that might be better suited to where you're working or the environment you guys are working in? And they mightn't have actually even known that was a thing. Has that something like that happened with you guys in terms of the advice you give? So people probably come into you for advice as well on what to use. Would that be? Yeah. Yeah. But so that's the thing. They're not just coming in to buy something. They're coming in for the advice from people who know the industry, who have the experience. So if I was looking at PerTech, I'd be like, okay, well, these guys are really experienced. I'm going to call them and ask them what should I be getting, and then can I click and collect or whatever the scenario is, how do I get it? But I'm actually buying from you because of the advice you can give me around working in this type of environment, for example. And they mightn't even know that, but you guys are unpacking it. And for you, Kimberly, how does your customer want to feel? Why does your customer want to feel this way? What does your customer need to feel this way? So, and I'm sure you blokes have done it too. When you go into lovely spas and they have like candles lighting and music playing, and that's not necessarily technically part of the treatment, but that's how I want you to feel. I want you to feel, we're playing certain types of music, we're doing certain types of things. What do I need to help my client feel safe, or to feel like I can share with you my challenges and you're going to help me? I can trust you. Do I like you? Can I trust you? And those are the two questions that we all by default go into for every single thing we do, right? Do I like you and can I trust you? Do you know what you're talking about? And can I take your advice, or can I take, is your product the quality you're telling me it is? Can I trust you? You guys probably do get a lot of the trust thing. It's like, okay, can I trust you to truly have my best interests at heart? And then it's about how do you help them to make sure that they feel that, so that's what you would be looking at through this set of things. And then thinking as well, guys, about the interaction throughout the lifespan. So once the product or service is dispersed or sold, is there any follow-up? Do you ever check in with them, or give them something else, or and we've seen things like, obviously you get your birthday vouchers or things like that, but is there other things? Do they become part of a network, a Facebook group? For the business to business perspective, do they get perhaps invited to, you might have like an evening where people talk about the latest tech and security, for example, or you might give them some form of I'm hesitant to use the word discount, but you might find some way to maybe wrap a service around a product that's you can say, okay, if you've already purchased from us, we're happy to give you X amount, giving them some form of service as well as the product itself. Or giving them a little bit extra in the service because they're a valued member of your customer base, things like that. You guys have done that a little bit as well, haven't you, around like customer points and things like that. And people do like using them, and you guys in the race club and stuff, like you would do a lot with your membership, I think, as well, wouldn't you?
We don't at the moment, actually, but we will.
Yeah. So it's a kind of, and you'd have, I'd imagine, you have the kind of corporate side, and then you have the people who just love the racing and rocking up. So it's like,
There's another side, there's the trainers.
And the trainers, yeah.
So we have lots of customers that are all very different.
Yeah. And that's where something like this would be great, because it'll give, what it does as well, Christy, is it gives you the clarity, you can unpack your brain, but also everybody else starts to see it too on paper, and you bring everybody on the same journey rather than it just being in your head what you want it to be, which is pretty powerful, and you'll get great feedback from the team as well. Because you guys, have you a new CEO there?
New one,
Yeah.
In November.
Yeah. Settling in all? Yeah. So this sort of, is getting him to share with you what he thinks are the key things to be achieved, so that you can then go, okay, great, what can that mean for us, and how do I match my product or service to that? This is a really good framework to help him do that, definitely. So how's that going for people? What are you thinking when you're starting to write down? You're thinking, I have to go get my kids.
Yep, I
You're very welcome. Have you any questions before you go?
So many, but
It's all good. All right, guys, if it's okay, I'm just going to move on unless there's any questions anybody's got. Was it making sense to everybody? Okay, what it's doing is it's just getting you to think differently. Well, back to that, we want to be able to move away from commodity. We want to be able to demonstrate value. We want to be able to get more of the type of client that we want to work with. And also it means that when you set your strategic goals, it's like, okay, I want to grow by 14% in the next 3 years. You're focusing on the right things rather than just going, we'll sell to everybody and see what happens. You're actually going, right, these are the clients we're going to service, and this is the value that we're bringing them, and this is now how we're going to achieve that, not just us as leaders, but as our people as well. All right? I'm conscious now just of time because we've got some amazing people speaking soon. So these are some additional triggered questions, and I'm more than happy to share this with you guys afterwards. The other thing that you would start to do is, finally discovered the red dot. So the high value job. So what you start to do is, when you do this exercise and you really get your people around and you really start to think through it, you'll have post-it notes everywhere. You're like, whoo, there's a lot of jobs to be done. Then you've got to start to prioritize it because you can't do everything, right? So what you look at is, basically there's a ranking table. So you look at, okay, is it important? Is it how you score these on a tab of, I think it's 1 to 10 usually is what you use. And you go, okay, well, what's really important to them? Is it tangible so they can see or feel the gain or loss? Is it currently unsatisfied? So if there's somebody out there doing it already really, really well, is it a space that you want to step into or not? And is it lucrative? So it might be, okay, there's a market that's big enough for us to essentially go after, or it's a niche market, but they're willing to pay a premium. So we're really happy to service that market. Okay, so you actually start, so the purpose of this is to create the funnel. Essentially go, okay, all this stuff we could do, this is the stuff that we're going to focus on, and this is what we're going to communicate so that they know it's not just a product or service, it's this, and we do this, by offering this, we do that. Okay? So the question then, of course, is we focus on this today. You guys have the fun of trying to decide, okay, what are the products and services that we offer as a result, and where are the gaps and where are the opportunities? So are there things that you're not doing today or you are doing but you're not telling your customers about? Or there's things that you could do that you didn't realize was valuable to your customer, but now you know it is, so you're going to go, oh, we'll actually add that in as part of our service offering. Or are there things you're taking out? You go, oh, we thought this was valuable. Nobody really values it as much as we thought they did. So it's about that as well. So looking at it through that lens, what can we cut out of the portfolio? You might have an instance where you're actually offering a hell of a lot of products and services, and you may want to decide, okay, we need to actually scale back and do some stuff really, really, really well, rather than trying to do everything and you're kind of skimming the surface, because that's where you lose your value. All right? Does that make sense? So that's basically what you would do is say the jobs are here, you prioritize the key ones. So in theory, what you'd be doing is pulling off the post-its that are no longer relevant to what you want to do. And what is left, you go, okay, well, what are the products and services that we offer today that help me, job to be done 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's how that is used, and then you basically then decide, okay, there's a gap or there's an opportunity, or we want to cut stuff or we want to increase stuff. Okay, and this is actually what one looks like. So, so this is basically, that's a fleet management company, and this is how they said, right, they have a contract model, and this was the gains that they created, the single point of contact, live monitoring tools, overall tire cost reduction, all of that sort of stuff. But this is what they started to sell to the customers, rather than you will replace your tires. That doesn't mean anything. But if I'm looking at that, it's far more valuable. And then of course the pain relievers as well. Okay. And yes, the other thing is to please test Don't just go, right, okay, we're going to release a whole new, series of products in 6 months' time. And then you put it out to market and everyone's like, no, we didn't actually want that. It's just make sure you test and validate your theories. So you could be doing things like, hey, we're going to put up on our website, book here to, if you want to test a new service, just put up some little things to test. You guys might want to say, hey, we're going to do an education evening once a month. Here's a link, and see what feedback you guys get, and then using that as way, hey, we're actually getting this sort of level of interest, I think we should do something now. So you don't just jump 2 feet in, just go scale up and say, okay, well, what sort of bite are we getting here? Or what do we need to tweak? So you might say, okay, I see you didn't really like that, what could we improve on it? And it gives you the base to have the conversation, rather than what would you like and we'll try and make it for you. It's actually, hey, we've thought about this. This is what we think is really valuable to you as a community. What do you think? Can you give us the feedback? And the input you're giving them has been thought through, and you're not kind of on the back foot. All right? So I would highly recommend that you find a way to test and validate your theories. Again, there are some great tools around that, and I'm more than happy to share those if you want it as well. And that's pretty much it. Oh, this is just... I know the price is up and all that stuff. By no means. I just wanted to share with you, if you did want to get more of the tools or more of the thinking and all of that, there is this program, and Sharon, you guys have kind of did this in the face-to-face, but there's an online version of it. So this is just, so you know, basically the stuff we did today was a version of the phase 2 Solve It. It was a snippet of it, but there's like videos, frameworks, tools, talks you through everything from what's our business model, who are we serving, and then how do we actually act and operationalize it. So kind of 3 phases. I just thought I'd put it up there. Sometimes people ask me where they get more information, where do they get more resources, and for anybody in Muswellbrook or in the MCCI, it's $4.95. I'm terrible. I'm always like, oh, I don't mean to be selling stuff. It's not by like that for any means, but it's more so I want you to know there is a place you can go to get more information.